Good morning,
Wow,
everyone.
it worked. We hit the go buttons.
We, for this one, we're not doing it live for those of you that are Facebookers, simply because we have an event tomorrow morning, but we wanted to do our keep going with our Sunday morning coffee talks that you can phone into or listen on Facebook or even hear pieces of Instagram afterwards. Because we had a really interesting awareness. 2 weeks ago, we had an event at a year.
10 of us?
10 of us, about following our hearts. And we went through some exercises and did 2 sound sessions, one to start and one to end. And then we hosted a call this morning with those that could attend live to reflect on what we've seen over the last few weeks. And I thought
it surprised me.
It surprised me too.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
And so we're grateful for the 2 beautiful men that joined the call to share their reflections, because they had their own perspectives on what happened during and after that event. And then I thought we would ask the team's perspective, because if you're listening to this, or if you saw this in an email, we're sharing it with our broader audience. One of the pushes that we're going to play with over the coming weeks, months, and years is to connect more strongly into our hearts and make decisions from that space. And John could absolutely see it. He said he came out of the event really uncomfortable, recognizing all the stories he was still playing out about himself that others had projected upon him.
In other words, he was kind of believing the stories that other people had given him.
On what is him and what makes him happy instead of his heart.
Well, he made an interesting comment that he's been at a lot of courses and teachings, and he was adopting the stories of other teachers telling him what he was.
And what he wanted in his life and what he wanted to be. And that was really uncomfortable in the moment, but the awareness is since then. So what he's committed is to following for him what is love, what his heart is saying. Then there was another man who shared that said, who I think wants to go nameless, so we'll go with that in the moment, who had said for him, what happened is he realized that he wants to follow what draws him rather than tells him. So what draws him to something, what pulls him there.
So that's the language he used.
Yes.
Now that I think about it and talk about it, is that what love does? It just allows us to flow towards something, flow into something.
Rather than push
being
through.
Pushed.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He said, isn't that what we talk about when we talk about surrender all the time and what comes through us? Because I think in surrender,
yes, it is.
We can find that flow that he was referring to, or we find that place where our heart draws us to something instead of the mind. But when we don't recognize that we're stuck in those patterns that have been placed upon us by society, family. In fact, I was listening to a beautiful message from Robert Loy, I should share with you, that I swear was recorded 4 or 5 years ago. He said the reason that the instruments and tones and everything else were launched was because we're so deeply mired in a collective consciousness of fear and disbelief that we needed something to cause interrupter patterns in our field so that we got an opportunity to see when we're stuck in something that isn't our flow.
It's interesting. All the stuff we do tends to be towards that.
Correct.
Whether it's the QAS, or whether it's the iCubes, or whether it's the tones, or whether it's our workshops or our weekends, is all trying to create interruptions in your basic life patterns.
Yes.
So they get a chance to drop into the heart and look at the world differently.
Right.
Fascinating.
So when we came out of that event 2 weeks ago, some of us were jarred, including myself, because as I listened to these 2 beautiful men, the last few weeks has been an absolute unentangling again of everything that I thought that made me happy, that I thought I wanted to do. And it's been frankly disturbing, but not
Well,
really.
It can be pretty scary if you're letting go of what you think makes you happy. That's an interesting
and so
foundation.
what we talked about today was filling a void. So what happened after the event was this huge opening of no longer attaching and believing, I sense, to what I believed before. And so the last 2 weeks has been these awarenesses of, I don't really want to hang Christmas balls on my tree. I don't want to do things the way I used to before. And being totally okay and sitting with that.
So that's kind of the radical thing.
We talked about radical change through love.
Radical change through love.
Right.
Is allowing and giving ourselves permission to flow into the things that we choose to do. I can just see the unpredictability or the discomfort with the normal person where you start to change your patterns that they just assume is you. So it's like, oh, don't you always want this for Christmas? And you start saying, no, I don't want that. That's not what I'm flowing into. It's not what I want to flow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, maybe last year, but this is a new year.
It's a new day, a new year.
Maybe yesterday, but this is a new day.
And so it even made me ponder today that part of our boredom as a human species, or part of the boredom of the younger generation, because I'm seeing it in my sons, and I'm going to talk more openly about this, is strictly because we're expecting them to follow what we perceive they should be doing, and it doesn't resonate for them. And so we're not giving ourselves enough permission to find our own flow.
So hence, they push back, and then we push back, and then they
becomes
push
this
back.
Parental tug of war.
And before you know it, you're not even, you lose track of being in connection with the people you love.
And ourselves.
And ourselves, big time. Which should be one of those people we love.
So I guess to close, this Sunday morning, it's not Monday, I'm somewhere else in the moment, Sunday morning coffee connection. What I'd love is more of the team's perspective on this concept of radical change through love.
So I'm going to get you to ask questions.
Oh boy. Okay.
And then the team will respond. This seems to be more what we're doing for sessions. If you're feeling the need to start the new year off with a session or before, let us know. But
come play.
It seems to be more in Q&A. People really enjoy being able to set the stage for the questions that are top of mind for them.
So the first question that came to mind is the one I posed. Why? Like, I wrote it a few weeks ago, and I've been hesitating to put it out into the world, because why this concept of radical change through love? What's pushing or compelling the both of us connected with the team to begin to become more vocal about why this change, why this push, why is it now, why is this time? I know a lot of questions, sorry about that.
There's a lot of answers to these types of questions. You can look at your internet and find many opinions. Simply, the answer is not one. It is rather broad-based. Because of the level of disruptive energy on your planet, think of it this way. There is many, many, many radio stations broadcasting high intensity static for your consciousness, for your subconsciousness, to receive clarity and clear information from the teams that work with you. It takes sometimes a loud burst, a loud pop to get your attention. So therefore, it is like you are a balloon gradually filling with hot air or air. It continues to be filled and filled to finally it bursts. Sometimes the bursting can be rather emotional, For that is what needs, for some, to get your attention. So, therefore, you go along your life. Your life energy is rather malleable. It is like breathing, in, out, in, out. But when change is required for you to step into a higher state of alignment with who you are, a radical change is often necessary. It is why most beings on your planet are not in the throes, in the stream of changing their awareness and consciousness through love or through anything else, for that matter, is for they are merely listening to the static, the little spikes of energy and thought patterns that are on your internet, instead of going inside and truly listening to what is the result of after the little burst of energy, the bubble that bursts. It is in those moments of silence when you are going inside and wondering, why did that painful situation happen to me? Those, you see, are moments of surrender. For you are asking the questions, why? For you are wondering, in your reality, how did you deserve this? Why did it happen? It's in those moments, if you are choose to take the second step, which is surrendering to understand that it was in alignment with the purpose from your soul, that you were endeavoring to be communicated to. Therefore, listen. Listen in love and allow the flow of the energy through surrender to bring about new, inspiring thoughts. For some, this will happen in moments, but some you may go through many days of deep, increased discomfort, as long as you are willing to continue to surrender and trust that the messaging will come through to you. Then you will know what is your next step.
So what I get from that is, for those that are seeking changes in their lives at this time, more clarity in their lives, or more focused time upon themselves, then we are encouraging, or being encouraged, to focus, listen, or be willing to take those often uncomfortable steps to facilitate the radical changes that we are looking for in our lives. For so many, if you are to look back, the question becomes, are you still on a train that's not bringing you the comfort in your life that you are seeking? Now, I'm not pretending for one moment that all change is comfortable. But if you look back at your train and you say to yourself, I don't think I want to be on this train anymore, then what are you going to do differently? So I guess the one thing I'd ask the team is, if somebody is looking back at their train and wanting to change the tracks, what could they do in the coming weeks, months, or years as they listen to this message that would encourage them, inspire them to jump the tracks and to choose love, interestingly?
Now, there are many different ways for many different personalities. But we would simply say, if your life is busy and noisy, loud is the pop that gets your attention. If your life is quiet and simple, it does not need the loudness of the pop. See, in the uncertainty that follows a uncomfortable, we will continue to use the analogy of a pup. Comes the surrender of the ego. You see, for the ego did not see it coming. The ego does not know what it is. In the discomfort comes the surrender. And in and from the state of surrender comes a willingness to step back into love, step back into reconnection with oneself, reconnection with your world, most importantly, reconnection with your soul. You see, it is not through the thinking mind that you figure out what you must do when you want to do it through love. It is through love and not thinking, but allowing and being pulled toward, and then taking inspired action from that state of love, you see. You are all capable of this. So the question one might ask when you look back, how many loud pops have you been hearing? And if you've been hearing a lot, are you willing to take the steps to surrender? For this next year, the pops will increase magnitudes of 10 times over for those that are understanding that their journey is love, but they are refusing, you see. It is your souls determined to get through to you before it is too late. It is this year that is about stepping into love. That is the theme. What can you do through love to change your world, to change your family, those you love, your community, your economy, your whole world? It is time for love to be the predominant energy. So we simply say, how many pops will it take for you to step into love? Be at peace.
Much love, everyone. We wish you a beautiful end of the season. And
Yes.
we will see you again next Sunday on our Conscious Coffee Talks. If you want to hang out, Coffee Connections.
Coffee Connections.
Much love to all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.